Hey there, Skylar here. Thanks for tuning in to the 4th episode of New Fire. I hope you've enjoyed them so far, and I'm really looking forward to making today's episode. It is about my life as a video game. This is a topic that I've wanted to cover ever since the idea of making this show, and also I'm excited to demonstrate the new presentation mode that I'm working on, like the Bob Ross, Leonardo da Vinci-esque presentation mode, kind of like a live sketchbook, if you will. To me, the funnest part of a video game is when you kind of get to gear up, decide what you're going to do, pick your map, pick your character, your likeness, and then go into the adventure. And before that, even pick the video game that you get to play. Lots of choices. So this little graphic here shows kind of an opening scene to a video game, and this character is saying, okay, here we are, what would you like to do? And on the shelves are different types of activities, different gear, different, it's just that room or that place where you get completely outfitted and kind of make those choices. This is like a map, right, or a track or racetrack that you would choose, maybe in Gran Turismo or Cruising the World, USA. You pick which one you want to do. Pick your car as you kind of swipe, do you want a tank, a truck, snowmobile, motorcycle, convertible, all these choices. This is the fun part of the game to me. So on the shelf here, there's activities as I see them, or things that I kind of wanted in my life. This would be renewable energy like wind power, a well for well water, a small herd of cattle I thought would be really cool and adventurous to take care of, time by campfire. This is a dojo, so this is just a representation of a shelf where you get to pick your activities, pick what you want to be doing in your life. By the mountains with the beautiful views. This is like crop fields. I really wanted to be able to I want to be able to grow my own food. Samurai sword, just because I think it's an adventurous thing to do. That is like practicing something like that. The cowboy hat. Again, just being adventurous. Another way to look at the video game aspect would be to look at a movie or a show, thinking of like Game of Thrones or Star Wars or The Bourne Identity. I figured that I watch these shows because that's what I kind of want to deep down be doing. I want to be the star in the Western movie, the cowboy or the Jedi. So that's what some of these things represent, is just incorporating adventure in my life. Not thinking that's weird even as an adult. I think it's normal. So the things I chose from that shelf were things like I want to wake up to a view like this, come down the stairs and kind of see, maybe my son and my dog have a view like this. So these are choices I made in the game, if you will, my life as a video game. Like I said, I wanted to grow my own vegetables, raise some chickens or some animals. I just thought that would be fun. This would kind of be a little, there's the solar energy, chicken coop, guest housing, just starting to show what I wanted the place to look like. Having a place to work. This is a representation of a little guest house that I wanted a place for my dad to stay. I would like a place for my dad to stay. He has a great record collection. He likes watching the Cubs, and he likes, selling his records on eBay. So this was that. And lastly, I just wanted to be able to practice architecture. Was another thing that I chose. I love architecture. I studied architecture, and I like being able to build with Legos all the way up to, real construction materials. In our human history, we've been able to build and experiment with so many different structures or building types, and I'd like to be able to do the same in my video game. So that's pretty much it for that one. So one of the advantages or reasons I like to look at my life as a video game recently is because I realize it allows me to zoom out from my life, look at myself as an avatar, as a character, and have a little bit more perspective. Realizing that if I was to watch a character in a video game just kind of do a job as opposed to be that main character of the video game or the movie, if you will, that would be boring, right? Kind of like looking back at your life when you're 80 or 90 or 100 years old. I feel like it gives you that added perspective. And it also gives you just more sense of adventure, and a video game, there's less risk. If, you know, I'm like 32, if I were to tell people that, you know, we're just kind of going to go pursue our dreams and go live in the mountains and yada yada da, there's a lot of worry and scare about our well-being and our future and financial this and worry that. But in a video game, that is non-existent. You would immediately leave the boring part of the video game and move on to what's next. Is the way I kind of see it. So looking at yourself as an avatar, I think, has advantages. And I began to draw myself as an avatar, or as a character, I guess, if you will, and start to think about myself and my own attributes. Just like in the beginning of a video game, it would have your strengths and your weaknesses, maybe the car's strengths and the weaknesses, maybe the basketball player's strengths and weaknesses. You know, whether you pick a wizard or an archer or a swordsman, they all have different attributes. So looking at myself as an avatar, I analyze my own attributes, my strengths, my weaknesses, and begin to analyze what I want to better myself at to help pursue my dreams. So this is kind of, I was trying to make an animation, or it is an animation of myself walking along, getting older basically. And I could see it going infinite number of ways. So I could become weaker and less active and slower mentally and physically. That is one option. Or I could turn the page and go another way and become a different character of a strong, badass dude. Something like you would see as this main character of a video game or a movie, like I said. You know, in the video game, when you can like spin them around, right? Like, alright, this is your character, now spin him around, what does he look like? So then there you are with yourself. You have your avatar, your character. And then, like I was saying, maybe you have your different strengths and your different weaknesses. These are the things, I would say, skills. Just as a word to sum it up, but it's like the things that you're interested in, your passions, what do you do, what do you like to do, what do you have going for you. Yeah. And then over here, since we are human, it's almost like, what's your downfalls? What distracts you? No, these distractions. What distracts you from your goal? Like, you know, in the video game, you have a goal. Like, okay, this is the mission. I have to go free Princess Leia, or I have to go get to that new planet, or whatever it may be. But these are the things that distract you from doing those things like that you really want to do. Okay, next will be like the first video game I really played, Warcraft, or Warcraft 2, not World of Warcraft, the newer stuff, but I really enjoyed the game, and I think it's a good way to help visualize some of this stuff. So if you're not familiar with the game, you land on this place, you're presented a scenario, a map if you will, and you're set to get to work as quick as possible. You know, your character is right here, and anywhere that he would walk, it would illuminate the screen. The rest of the map was blacked out. You would maybe have a character or two, and you could kind of get to work harvesting. You know, if you came over here, you could harvest lumber and use that to build things. If you traveled up to the corner, maybe there is a gold mine, you can start harvesting gold, mining gold, and use that. This represents a forest. Or maybe you'd accidentally run into some bad guys, and they would overtake you if they outnumbered you. So this is the game that was given to you. It's kind of kill or be killed, hurry up, race to build up your fortress so that you can handle a wave of attack. I kind of had the idea, what if there was this little area over here no one ever told us about in this game, that was kind of just a base, like a free zone where you just played and you didn't have to worry about monsters coming to get you, or collecting money, or whatnot. So zooming out, viewing yourself as an avatar, analyzing your own skills, your own distractions, I think is self-realization. Understanding what you're here for and what you're trying to do. I think then going through and taking your distractions and starting to cross them out and focusing on your skills and building them higher and higher is self-mastery. Those are two terms that I've heard and heard defined, and that's how I describe them. So I guess when you do this and you become tired of the game that was handed to you and you were presented and told to play, and you realize the bigger picture, I think the new game becomes trying to enlighten others to this, to be honest with you. There's plenty of others on YouTube doing this, and I'd like to just be a part of that and share what I can contribute to that, be a part of the team, if you will. With that said, I'd like to send a couple shout outs to people that I've followed and gotten a lot of inspiration from. Another person who's doing like spiritual enlightenment really, really well, way better than I'm doing it and way more thorough, is a guy named David Thomas, and he has a channel called Enlightened Minds. I'll throw a link in the description of this. Just wanted to say that if you want any thorough, enlightening talk from someone, there's that guy. And on a snowboarding front, there's a guy named Casey Willix who does C vlogs, and I'll throw his link as well. Just so if you wanted to watch somebody that's way better at snowboarding, and he also does so much about health and wellness and positivity. So I believe that we're all kind of on the same team. I'll continue to share others who have influenced me. Not wanting to play the game that was given is a feeling that I share with so many others. I'd like to throw it to a couple musical artists and their lyrics to kind of help back me up on this. Frank Ocean, one of my favorites, in his Blonde album, has a quote where he says, "I'm living in an idea from another man's mind." And the whole song is kind of about he could settle and get a house with 2 kids and a swimming pool, but that wouldn't be brave. That's living in the idea of another man's mind. So I think what he's trying to say is he wants to be a little bit more of a trailblazer and leave a path for people to follow, and I can identify with that. Another person would be Kendrick Lamar, who I have so many quotes of his I'd like to get to, and there will be more to come, but one of my favorites of his would be, he says, "Get off them slave ships, build your own pyramids, and write your own hieroglyphics." So, to me, he's saying, basically do your own thing. We were brought here on slave ships, going back many, many generations, human history of time, and handed a game to play, handed a program. And he's saying, build your own pyramids and write your own hieroglyphics. Very powerful lyric to me, meant a lot to me, means a lot to me. And then my guy Pharrell, met him way back in the day, and he's just doing great things. N.E.R.D, his most recent album, has a lot of gems on it. Philosophically, I think Pharrell's doing some great things. So in his newest album, he says, quotes, "Weapons of mass distraction influence your patterns." Weapons of mass distraction influence your patterns. And then he says, the enemy is humongous culture poachers. So that's kind of what I was just talking about. So many times, so many cultures have been swallowed up and then given a new program to abide by. And that's just happened time and time again over the over human history. So I think that's all about having a new game, realizing that this program, this game that we were handed is just that. It's a game, and I'm going to make it my mission to show the way out of the game. I think there's a few big building blocks. One would be New Fire, which I've obviously named my series and alluded to a couple of times, but that is going to be, the new fire in human civilization is going to be the missing key, I think, that kind of propels us all into this new game. So, going back to this Avatar guy, in shows like the Game of Thrones, or in video games, or in whatever, there's usually something that Avatar has to prepare for, whether it's a game, a battle, something. I don't really have anything to prepare for, especially since I stopped playing basketball and flag football. So I turned to snowboarding. I was going to turn to the samurai sword and the dojo and kind of focusing on a martial arts, but I don't have the dojo, and snowboarding is really accessible and similar, I think, at the moment. So I just want to do my part and be a part of the team of people who are trying to expose this, as far as it's just a game, it's just a trick, and we can do so much more with what we're given, and we should be doing so much more. So I intend to join my fellow artists like Kendrick Lamar, Pharrell Williams, and Frank Ocean, and my fellow YouTubers David and Casey, in just promoting this newfound truth that we are capable and we can do whatever we want. And I really truly believe that this truth is going to get out quickly. I'm a person who's making it my job to study human history, human evolution, society around us, and I've always been a thinker, a designer. The reason he was so well respected was his ability to just observe what was around him and repackage it and show it to people. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Observe society around us, observe everything that's happening. I'm of an age where I'm 32, I was born before cell phones. I grew up with basically without internet, but it came around when I was a young kid. So I'm of an age where I feel like I'm right in the middle of the digital and the non-digital age, digital and analog, whatever. Another influence into living so risky and realizing that there's so much more to gain, and something that gave me perspective, I believe, was some concepts, some ideas of the pyramids, going back to what Kendrick Lamar said, and some archaeologists are doing some research on how old they might actually be, and the fact that we may have them misdated, and the fact that the civilization that built them may have been more advanced than we knew. Potentially, if you wanted to believe it, more advanced than us currently in certain ways. It may sound far-fetched, but the flood of 12,000 years ago that's documented in so many different religions, like the Noah's Ark flood, is documented in countless other religions at the same time. A flood of that magnitude, which archaeological evidence that there was a comet or a meteor that hit the Pacific Northwest, like the western part of Canada and the northwestern part of the United States, caused this flood. And a flood of that magnitude would have wiped out most anything on the planet, removing most evidence of the civilization that lived previously. So I say all that to say that the concept of a previously more advanced civilization, and why I say they're more advanced, if you look into some of the hieroglyphics and study the ancient Great Pyramids of Giza, there's reason to believe that they had use of electricity. And they also had this obsession, fascination with the pineal gland, which many other societies, religions, cultures also did. So for those two reasons, I would say they had the chance to be more advanced than us. Also, the idea that the pyramids were built as a communal effort, not as slave driven. All of these ideas give me the perspective to think, wow, 12,000 years ago there may have been humans on the planet that existed in a higher frequency, higher level, at a more cohesive rate than we do currently. So that idea that 12,000 years ago, that is a mind-altering, paradigm-shifting piece of information, I believe, if you really sit there and think about it. You could, and don't focus on the facts of whether it's true or not. You can look into it. I do believe it's true with all the research that I've done, but you could look into it, believe it or not. Aside from that, if you just think about that fact, or you just think about that idea, let's say there's 12,000 years ago, people had existed that had a little bit more success at this than we are currently having. Because we are not currently being successful, right? We're burning this planet right down out of it. So we're burning ourselves out of this planet, I should say. So that makes me think, like Kendrick Lamar said, get off the slave ships, build your own pyramids, and write your own hieroglyphs. Let's try to do better than what we're doing. We are currently just running this rat race, and it's not healthy for us. Throwing it to another artist, Joey Badass, his most recent album has a line that says, "Humans under supervision isn't a living condition. While we've been trying to fit in, they've been benefiting. All our history is hidden." So what he's saying there is, how I take that is, this history of us used to be being better and more civilized, and there's tons of history is hidden anyway. We're just trying to fit in, and all the time that we're trying to fit in, they're benefiting off of us doing that. And he's just saying, silly. We need to rise above it. So thanks a lot for tuning in today. Watching the 4th episode here of New Fire. If there's any guesses on what that means, now's the time, because I think in the next video I'm kind of going to elaborate on what New Fire means. I touched on it a little bit today. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and have a good day.